The rain drummed against the windows of Mel's Corner diner like tiny fists demanding to be let in. Sarah Martinez wiped down the counter for the third time that morning, her tired eyes scanning the nearly empty restaurant. At 28, she had been working double shifts at this small-town diner in Cedar Falls, Ohio for almost 2 years, trying to make ends meet while caring for her elderly mother who battled diabetes. Every penny counted, and every customer mattered. But there was one customer who had captured her heart in a way she never expected. In the far corner booth, a thin boy of about 10 sat quietly, his oversized jacket hanging loosely on his small frame. His name was Marcus, though Sarah had learned this only after weeks of gentle coaxing. He would appear every morning around 7:30, always ordering just a glass of water and sitting in the same spot until the school bus arrived. His dark eyes held a sadness that seemed far too heavy for someone his age, and his clothes, while clean, were clearly too big and showed signs of wear. The first time Marcus had come in, 3 months ago, Sarah noticed him counting coins in his palm with the careful attention of someone much older. She watched as his face fell when he realized he didn't have enough for even the cheapest item on the menu. Something in his expression reminded her of herself as a child, when her own family had struggled to put food on the table after her father left. Without thinking, she had approached his table with a warm smile and a plate of pancakes. "I made too many by accident," she had told him, her voice gentle and kind. "Would you mind helping me out so they don't go to waste?" The gratitude in his eyes was so profound that it took her breath away. He ate slowly, savoring every bite as if it were the most delicious meal in the world. From that day forward, Marcus became Sarah's silent morning ritual. She would prepare an extra breakfast each day, always with a different excuse. Sometimes it was leftover eggs that needed to be used up. Other times it was a new recipe she was testing. She learned his preferences through observation. He loved blueberry pancakes but would eat anything without complaint, he preferred orange juice to milk, and he always left his plate spotless. Sarah's manager, Bob Henderson, was a gruff man in his 60s who ran the diner with an iron fist and a calculator for a heart. He prided himself on keeping costs low and profits steady. Sarah knew he would never approve of giving away free food, so she began paying for Marcus's meals out of her own tips. Some mornings, this meant she had barely enough left over for her mother's medication, but she couldn't bear the thought of Marcus going hungry. The other waitress, Linda, a woman in her 50s who had worked at the diner for over a decade, initially questioned Sarah's actions. "That boy's not your responsibility," she would whisper during quiet moments. "You're barely making it yourself." But as weeks turned into months, even Linda's hardened heart began to soften when she witnessed Marcus's quiet politeness and genuine gratitude. Sarah began to notice troubling details about Marcus's situation. His shoes had holes that he tried to hide by keeping his feet tucked under the booth. His backpack was held together with duct tape, and she sometimes caught him doing homework by the dim light that filtered through the diner's windows because his pencil was worn down to a tiny stub. Most heartbreaking of all, she noticed that the free breakfast she provided was often the only real meal he seemed to have all day. One particularly cold November morning, Marcus arrived shivering, his thin jacket providing little protection against the harsh Ohio winter. Sarah's heart ached as she watched him try to warm his hands around the water glass. That afternoon, she used her grocery money to buy him a warm winter coat from the thrift store, presenting it as a lost and found item that no one had claimed. "The coat fits you perfectly," she said with a bright smile. "Someone must have left it here just for you." Marcus hugged the coat to his chest, and for the first time since she had known him, Sarah saw him smile, a real, genuine smile that lit up his entire face. As winter deepened, Sarah learned more about Marcus through their brief conversations. He lived with his grandmother, Rosa, who worked 3 jobs to keep them afloat after his parents had died in a car accident 2 years earlier. His grandmother left for work before dawn and didn't return until late evening, leaving Marcus to get himself ready for school and manage on his own. The boy was essentially raising himself, and Sarah's heart broke thinking about how lonely and scared he must be. Sarah found herself looking forward to Marcus's visits more than she cared to admit. His quiet presence and shy smiles had become the brightest part of her difficult days. When he brought home a report card showing straight A's despite his circumstances, she felt as proud as any parent would. When he showed up with a black eye one day, claiming he had fallen downstairs, she felt a protective anger that surprised her with its intensity. The breakthrough came on a snowy December morning when Marcus arrived at the diner in tears. Through gentle questioning, Sarah learned that his grandmother had collapsed at one of her jobs and was in the hospital. Marcus had spent the night alone, terrified and unsure of what to do. Without hesitation, Sarah called her mother to watch the diner and drove Marcus to the hospital, where they learned that Rosa was suffering from exhaustion and malnutrition, working herself to the bone to provide for her grandson. Sitting in that sterile hospital waiting room, Sarah made a decision that would change everything. She couldn't continue to stand by and watch this family struggle in silence. That evening, she created a social media post about Marcus and Rosa's situation, sharing their story with her small network of friends and family. She expected maybe a few dollars in donations, enough to help with hospital bills. What happened next was beyond her wildest dreams. The post was shared and reshared across Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Local news stations picked up the story, and suddenly, Sarah's phone was ringing constantly with people wanting to help. Donations poured in from across the country, not just money but offers of food, clothing, and support. A local businessman offered Rosa a single full-time job with benefits that paid more than her 3 part-time positions combined. The community rallied around the family in ways that restored Sarah's faith in human goodness. But the most surprising turn came exactly 1 week later. Sarah was working her usual morning shift when 4 black SUVs pulled up outside Mel's Corner Diner. Her heart skipped a beat as men in expensive suits stepped out, looking completely out of place in the humble establishment. She watched in confusion as they approached the entrance, her mind racing with possibilities. Were they government agents? FBI? Had she somehow broken the law by helping Marcus? The leader of the group, a tall man with graying temples and kind eyes, approached the counter where Sarah stood frozen. "Are you Sarah Martinez?" he asked, his voice warm despite his intimidating appearance. "Yes," she whispered, her hands trembling slightly. "Ms. Martinez, my name is David Chen, and I represent the Chen Foundation. We've been following your story, and we wanted to meet the woman who showed such extraordinary kindness to a young boy in need." Sarah's confusion deepened until David explained that the Chen Foundation was one of the largest charitable organizations in the Midwest, dedicated to supporting families in crisis. They had learned about Marcus and Rosa's story through the viral social media post, but more importantly, they had been moved by Sarah's selfless actions. "We've seen many acts of kindness over the years," David continued, "but what you did was special. You didn't just help when it was convenient or when others were watching. You sacrificed your own financial security, day after day, month after month, to ensure that a child didn't go hungry. That kind of sustained, quiet compassion is rare and precious." The foundation had decided to do something unprecedented. They were establishing the Sarah Martinez Scholarship Fund, which would provide educational support for children in situations similar to Marcus's. But that wasn't all. They were also offering Sarah a position as the fund's community outreach coordinator, a job that would allow her to help families across the region while providing her with a stable income and full benefits for herself and her mother. The room seemed to spin as Sarah processed this life-changing news. Through her tears, she managed to ask about Marcus and Rosa. David smiled widely, explaining that the foundation was also providing Rosa with a house, free and clear, along with a trust fund to ensure Marcus could attend college without financial worry. But perhaps the most beautiful moment came when Marcus himself walked through the diner door, accompanied by his grandmother Rosa, who was now healthy and glowing with happiness. Marcus ran straight to Sarah and hugged her tightly, whispering thank you for saving us over and over again. Rosa, with tears streaming down her weathered face, took Sarah's hands in hers and spoke in accented but clear English. "You gave my grandson more than food. You gave him hope. You showed him that there are good people in this world who care about strangers. You taught him that kindness exists, even when everything seems dark. As Sarah looked around the diner, now filled with reporters, foundation representatives, her co-workers, and the community members who had rallied to support Marcus's family, she realized that her small acts of kindness had created ripples far beyond anything she could have imagined. The shy, hungry boy who had sat in the corner booth had not only found his way to security and love, but had also become the catalyst for helping countless other children in similar situations. 6 months later, the Sarah Martinez Scholarship Fund had helped over 200 families across Ohio, providing not just financial support but also connecting people with resources and community networks. Sarah's new role allowed her to visit schools, community centers, and other diners, teaching people that kindness doesn't require wealth or power, just an open heart and the willingness to see the humanity in others. Marcus, now thriving in school and living in a warm, stable home, still visited the diner every week. But instead of sitting alone in the corner booth, he would spend his Saturday mornings helping Sarah sort donations and prepare care packages for other families in need. He had learned that receiving kindness was just the first step. The real magic happened when you pass that kindness forward to others. The story of Sarah and Marcus reminds us that we all have the power to change someone's life, even when we feel like we have nothing to give. Sarah's secret kindness started with simply noticing a hungry child and choosing to act with compassion. She didn't wait for permission, didn't worry about whether she could afford it, and didn't expect recognition or reward. She simply saw a need and filled it, day after day, with quiet determination and love. In a world that often feels divided and harsh, stories like this remind us that ordinary people doing small acts of extraordinary kindness can create waves of positive change that touch countless lives. Sarah's story teaches us that we don't need to wait for someone else to solve the problems we see around us. We can be the solution, one small act of kindness at a time. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to Pure Kindness Stories for more inspiring tales of human compassion. Share this story with your friends and family, because in a world hungry for hope, stories of genuine kindness are the most powerful force for positive change. Remember, you have the power to be someone's blessing today. Look around you, notice who might need a helping hand, and be brave enough to reach out. Your kindness could be the beginning of someone's miracle story, just like Sarah's was for Marcus. The greatest gift we can give each other is the knowledge that we are not alone, that someone cares, and that kindness still exists in this world. Thank you for being part of our community of people who believe in the power of pure kindness to change the world, one heart at a time.